A salary is a drug they give you to forget your dreams.
I think you could put it into the category of it's a drug, it's a pacifier. There's
It's a
the
numb.
golden
It's Novocaine.
handcuffs.
Yes.
I completely agree with it. I've seen it happen to myself over and over again when I'm trying to start a company and then something shiny, and by shiny I mean like a comp package with a company comes in, then you end up dedicating your time, energy, effort into that company rather than whatever you want to like actually actively work on. I'm seeing it now, being that I'm off that drug. That
Forcefully though, but in a good way.
forcefully, yes, it was a layoff, but now I'm like putting all that time and energy into other projects. And I think I went on this rant a little bit when I got laid off, right in that layoff video at the end, where when I was talking to some of my friends, they've wanted to leave their company for years and they want to do other things, but because the money is there, they're like, the only way I'm going to do it is if I get fired or I get laid off. And in some ways, it's probably better if they got laid off or fired. Like financially, they don't need it, but because it's there and it's easy, it makes you complacent.
Mm-hmm. So for me, when I was feeling this was about 3 years, again, going into it and me getting back on again, even for this podcast, I was like, dang, I put so much work into anything and minimal growth. How much time I put into projects on hours while people just don't and they still get paid either more than me or less than me. It just didn't matter how much work you put in, and I just started to really resonate with me. Was that regardless of how much work you put in the salary, it's never going to bump out. How many hours you put in, it's never going to be bumped up. Regardless if you work hourly, yes, you put in hours of overtime, but that's a rate is still forever going to be there unless you negotiate for more. And for me, I was like, dang, this is bad. And before I even read this quote, I already had these feelings about I have to start figuring out ways to get an income outside of a W two, of a work W two. And I was like, crap, this is hard. And again, when you're getting tired, when I'm trying to grind out, um, I'm like, why am I doing this? I just have a job. I'm really gonna get paid. And then it just reverts back. I'm like, okay, I gotta get it back in the gear. And that's where my complacency lies, is that I could let off the gas because I still have X. So yeah, it is interesting.
We said it in the last podcast. A job is the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to sit
It,
there, collect a check. And if it meets all your needs and you're happy with it, then freaking great. If you're striving for more, it sometimes is a glass ceiling.
yeah.
Ooh,
I think
sidebar. So
yeah.
the other day I was listening to a podcast. It was by a Asian creator, and they called it
Mm-hmm.
the bamboo ceiling instead of the glass ceiling.
Really?
I respected it.
Yeah, of course you did. I respect it too. But no, it's just I'm pretty sure you hear all these coworkers as well, but I'm never one to complain. I just don't. But when people complain about I'm not getting paid enough, not everyone's getting paid enough. Maybe I might have said that in the last pod, but dude, it just this in this quote itself is just telling me, and we're just in a society of saying we still have the power to create more for ourselves, even though we feel like that quote unquote American dream might be dying out. It might be harder, but it's still very much intact. We're not we're not limited to saying that we aren't allowed to build something from scratch. We're not saying we're not allowed to voice our minds or opinions, regardless of the turmoil of society. We still have a lot in America right now in the capitalistic sense. We can still grow something regardless. It's harder, but the possibility is very much there. Is that we can still grow something for ourselves and not be limited or capped by the government, or by limiting a capped, I mean saying, oh, we don't like your idea, we're just gonna cut it type of thing. So yeah, when I read that quote, I also thought about that, and then I thought that got me to thinking of coworkers kind of just complaining or griping about not getting paid enough. Granted, none of us get paid enough. Now, everywhere you go, people are not saying we're not getting paid enough. Crap, it's true. So I don't know. It's just this quote just gets me in so many different ways. What do you? I know I rambled. So what else you got on here?
I was going to ask, do you think it's actually easier or harder to start your own thing now than it was 10, 15, or even like a generation ago?
I think it's harder. I think in the sense of with social media, people trying to be that influencer type of thing. I think that's going to be harder. Originality is difficult because I feel like even this podcast itself, is it original? Is it not? We're just doing it because we're just homies wanting to talk about shit and other topics we find throughout. If people catch on, they catch on. As of right now, our expectation is that we're just going to do this. Some of the people's expectation going into it is we got to make it to get to that influencer status, you know?
Yeah, when I think about jumping off and doing your own thing, at least for those that went to college, you're already behind the eight ball for majority of the time because like you have student loan debt.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not starting at zero to start something. And student loan debt is if you're lucky that you didn't have to also take out personal loans.
And depending what university you went to, you could just be buried down just for undergraduate alone is crazy. I also was thinking, besides just the influencer type of job, it's people feel like they always have to build something new and more creative. And took me a while to figure that you don't have to. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just need a business. And the brick and mortar businesses, I know we talked about it during the segment of small businesses just being treated like real estate. It had to shift my mind to, instead of starting something, let's just take over something. And that's easier than doing that. The dream of that American dream isn't dead. It is harder, but people just have to repivot and figure out where that blue ocean is. By blue ocean, red ocean type of market.
And you could always infuse technology or a different approach to an old business, right?
Mm-hmm. And for the listeners of a blue ocean, red ocean, Nick, can you explain? You say it better than me.
On a Thursday,
you need to define this too.
a blue ocean is a market that typically doesn't have a lot of competitors in the space. A red ocean is where it's really crowded and kind of a bloodfest of competition, which makes it a little bit redder. So it's always better to fish where there's no sharks rather than being in the middle of a feeding frenzy.
Mm. Well, can I add something onto that?
Yeah.
Not different on the red ocean, blue ocean, but I'm pretty sure you most likely skip through this part because you like to listen to everything at 2x speed. But back to the Colin Samir podcast with Tim Ferris, when they're talking about how do you become number one, and Tim Ferris said he got it from a book, but he said I don't have to be the top of my category because I'm a category of one, and that's the environment he always puts himself in. And that's the environment he always tries to create. When he starts to feel like there is a competitor in a sense, he'll diverge into a new way where he's the only one in that space and be like, wow.
Tony Robbins talks a lot about that. They call it being a category king or queen and just developing a service that's unable to be compared to other competition. And it's a common theme across marketing, PR, tech companies. That's what differentiates a lot of the companies that come up and compete.
Yeah. So,
and it doesn't have to be super innovative. It could just be that you have kick-ass customer service and everyone else doesn't.
It has to be one aspect. Do you think it's easy? Saying back salary to drug, you think it's easy to achieve this kind of dream, or you kind of feel you are stuck?
Escaping the salary drug?
Mm-hmm.
I think about it a lot when I got laid off. If I wanted to find another job, it's definitely easier to kind of clock in, clock out. I think it's a little bit unfulfilling for me. I would have to find a company that has like a mission that's really aligned with my values to where I'm either making enough where I'm satisfied and the mission outweighs that, or in the best case, has a great mission and pays well. So I time blocked it, trying to give myself the next 6 months to do something at least enough financially to allow me to continue to do it. And then I'll recalibrate in 6 months.
I want to go on a side topic then. Was that analyzing our friend group? A lot of our friends are doing amazing stuff. They have families. They're doing the in and out life and clock in, clock out, and having time for family and all that. And there's we both analyzed it. It's like, dang, it's so great to have. But we also looked at each other at that moment saying, can we stop what we're doing and just trying to build something for outside of that comfortable zone? I can easily do it. We could both easily do it. Get a job, just focus on, go home, kind of build that relaxed life. But I still don't know why, for me personally, I enjoy the chaos or kind of pressure on my back to build something. I just can never define why I still like doing it. And I know we both kind of resonate with that. And our nature cannot just fall into the routine of get the paycheck, do what we have to do, the paycheck, put it into house, family, and that was, and just repeat the cycle and just go on vacation, save up for stuff. And that's nothing wrong with that. I just can't do it. I don't know why. I always feel like I need to build something. It's just hard to turn off.
I think I don't like the constraints, and I think that's what fuels me to keep doing something more. And the constraints that I'm always thinking of is growing up, my mom having a coupon all the time, or when going out to eat, there's always the decision of what is there to order. Like I grew up in a family where we didn't order soft drinks when you went out to eat. Are you kidding me? Like you're laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about.
What? Don't do that. Get water.
Right? Or when you're on the menu, you're not looking at the most expensive thing on the menu. You're looking at the bottom,
You're not getting
like 10%.
You're not getting appetizers for sure. You're getting
Oh,
your main
absolutely.
meal.
What is an
You're getting
appetizer? You
dessert.
skip the first
No,
page.
no, we're not getting dessert either. You look in the middle. You get one meal. If we could share, you share. Applebee's 2 for $10 or 2 for $20 or something like that.
So it's those types
Yes.
of things that are in the back of my mind of things I don't want to have, constraints. I think there's a lot. You've definitely heard those stories where people are like, we saved up 3 years to go on this Disneyland vacation.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy smokes, you spent 3 years saving money to go to a Disneyland vacation. I know Disneyland's expensive, but like that is not the status quo I want to have versus I don't even like Disney, but hey, let's just go to Disneyland. All right, cool. Buy some tickets. Let's go. It's a very different lifestyle.
Yeah, mine was yes and no for having my family having that. I think it's just probably that's the pressure, but I just never wanted to go to see how my parents lived for 20 years when I was living with them for 18 to 20 years and then going to do the same routine over and over and over again. For me wasn't. So building something, I think when in that process was the byproduct of discovering I don't have to say wait 3 years to go on a vacation or wait for X, Y, and Z. I can still figure out ways to do it now. So yeah, I went camping. That's why I went. That's why I'm so ill prepared for this interview. But when I went camping and I was just telling even we were talking around the fire and they're like, oh yeah, my girlfriend said, where else have you been? And then with her family and her mom, I was like, oh, I'm X, Y, and Z. I've been to at least 10 different countries so far. And they're like, wow. And I was like, what? To me, it felt normal. I know friends in our group go to even more, and I feel like I'm behind. But if you think about other people's circumstances, life, and how they came and where they're at now, I'm living their dream, and that was a crazy aspect. And just by just being different and trying to build something else, kind of led me towards that.